Nama Sreshtham Manamapi Shachi Putramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupuring Maturing Va Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Ahoradhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tangnatosmi Nindantang Pulakotkarena Vikasat Nipa Prasuna Chaving Pradvikritya Bhujadvayam Hari Hari Tyuchayvadantam Muhu Nrityantam Galadasru Nirjarachayai Sinchantamurvitalam Gayantam Nijaparshadaih Parivritam Tam Goura Chandram Numaha Jayati Jayati Radha Prema Sarai Ragadha Jayati Jayati Krishnas Tatra Saswada Trishnas Jayati Jayati Vrindam Tatsakinam Dvayaikyam Jayati Jayati Vrinda Kananam Tatsvadhama Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Radhe. So,
Shri Radhe.
well, I said I was going to talk about something, so I'll just talk about this verse and we'll see what happens. So this is a verse that's in the Ujjvala Nilamani.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this verse where is it coming? It's interesting. You have to look at to see what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So where is it being quoted? So someone gives you a verse like this, and it's just coming out of the blue. So now to understand the verse, you have to know the context, what it's being given, because most of the verses, these are verses that are given as examples of something.
Uh-huh.
So this is an example of madhurya. It's found in the chapter on Uddipanas. So I talked about Uddipanas last time. Remember Uddipanas?
Yes.
Right. So this is a whole chapter in the Ujjvala Nilamani. The 11th chapter is just about Uddipanas. So the primary Uddipanas are Krishna's.
On track of what is this text, because some devotees will be a little bit confused.
Okay, Ujjvala Nilamani. All right, so Rupa Goswami is, I don't know if it was because I've been talking about this lately, so I don't know if I talked to you about it or if I talked to somewhere else. But at any rate, you have Rupa Goswami is writing two main books about rasa. The first one is Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu, which is general. And then there's Ujjvala Nilamani, which is about Madhura Rasa, which is Ujjvala Rasa. So Ujjvala Rasa, at the beginning of the chapter, there is a chapter on Madhura Rasa in Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu. But at the very beginning of that chapter, Rupa Goswami says that this is a big subject. I'm only going to treat it summarily, you see, summarily here, because it's a difficult subject. Most people won't understand. Not everybody has the adhikar. Not everybody can, is tuned into Madhura Rasa. So let's say it's not appropriate for someone who has, it's not really appropriate for someone who is in one of the other moods to won't be interested and things like that. So he makes this excuse. Another thing he says nivrittanupayogitvam. So nivritta, this is the thing. So nivritta is described in two ways, but basically the idea behind nivritta is someone who is a sannyasi. So he's saying that it's not appropriate for sannyasis to talk about Madhura Rasa.
Yes.
Right, and the commentaries explain that that's if you're a sannyasi, then you might take it the wrong way, right, and it will affect your brahmacharya.
If I remember correct, Rupa Goswami mean exactly the kind of yogis who are doing like very severe kind of tapasya. So any speaking and ideas about some relationship between Radha and Krishna can be some disturbance for their mind, right?
Yeah, so basically that's not what the commentaries say. The commentaries don't actually come out explicitly like that. You know, what Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath say is people who don't have a taste for this particular rasa. So nivritta just means not engaged, right? So you have pravritti and nivritti. So nivritti means to not engage in action, and pravritti means to take up an action. So nivritti, so sannyas is nivritti marg, right? And pravritti marg is grihastha life. So he says that. So when he says nivrittanupayogi-tvam, so of course none of the sannyasis want to say that this is inappropriate for us. Right? They don't want to. They say that this is something different. So the whole question of what happens when one hears Radha and Krishna's activities and thinks that these are material sex life, right? This is what we always heard. That if you're not in the right place, then you'll think that this is ordinary sex life, and you'll become a sahajya. This is what the warning signs, the warning that's given to everyone from But well, it seems that verse would agree, that it's not for everybody.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it's not a big subject. And so the Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu, I think it's about, in terms of size, Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu, you have to understand all the basic principles that are there in order to be able to understand what's going on with Ujjvala Nilamani. But Ujjvala Nilamani is using the same thing. So the definitions that are there in Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu, they carry over into Ujjvala Nilamani, except where the situation requires new terminology. But just like we're talking about the different ingredients for rasa, the vibhavas, anubhavas, satikas, vyabhicharis, and sthayi bhava. So those 5 things are all there in Madhura Rasa, and they have to be explained, but they have special characteristics for Madhura Rasa. Like the anubhavas of lovers, the activities that they engage in are not going to be the same as those for friends.
Right.
And the emotions that are felt in Madhura Rasa are different from those that are felt, let's say, by parents. So there might be some crossover, but for the most part, the different kinds of things that are interesting in Ujjvala Rasa. So the kinds of things that are Ujjvala Rasa, so this is just like this verse here. This is Uddipana. So the Uddipanas means the things that arise, that cause one's loving feelings to become aroused. Right? The things that arise. Uddipana actually means lighting up. Right? Deepa means a lamp, like you have Deepavali. Yeah, Diwali, Deepavali, Deepavali, right? The festival of lights.
Yes.
So Deepa is a light, and Deepana. Uddipana means to light up. So to illuminate. So Uddipana is the thing that, so you're an Uddipana, something like a match would be an Uddipana, right? It's lighting the match and you put it to the fire. And that's how the fire starts. So the fire inside us, we all have this innate tendency to want love. And so when we see that love being manifested in front of us in some way, like in a play or in a movie or in a poem, then that makes that feeling of love in our own hearts is aroused, is awakened. So that's what the Uddipanas are doing. So this is here. This verse is an example of an Uddipana. So the Uddipana is here. So now the question is, who's Uddipana? So we're the audience, right? The devotees are the audience for Radha and Krishna's Leela. That's why I say Jayati Jayati Vrindang Tat Sakina Dvayakyam. Well, you see, or there are other verses also. In the Govinda Lilamrita, that say that the gopis, no, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shaki Ashadoi. Anyway, in the Ramananda Shikha, in Ramananda, in the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila, it says that the Leelas are depending on the Sakhis, right? That the Sakhis are creating, the Sakhis are like the directors of the Leela, and they're also the audience of the Leela. Right? So the devotee is actually the audience. There's a good, and there's a play Rupa Goswami writes, Dan Keli Komudi, you may have heard. So at the beginning of Dan Keli Komudi, it's written in a very classical style. So at the beginning of the Dan Keli Komudi, the person comes, the director of the play comes on stage and talks to the audience, right? He comes on and he's going to introduce the play. And the way that he does it usually is that he has a little conversation with the lead actor or actress. Well, usually in those days it was the men doing both the roles, right? So they'll have a conversation, and in the course of that conversation, they might praise the king or But in the case of Dan Keli Komudi, he comes on the stage and he look at these people here in the audience, and starts to glory, because the play is supposed to take place by Govardhan. And so he's talking, he says, look at all these devotees here. And then he starts describing how the devotees are feeling ecstasy in hearing about Radha and Krishna Leela. And so he's making all these descriptions. So in that description, it's like he's saying, these are the adhikari shrotas. These are the people who are qualified to listen to Hari Katha. So of course they're all he describes their ecstasies, that some of them are jumping up and down, and some of them are dancing, some are rolling on the ground having ecstatic symptoms. So he's describing like that the audience for the Leela. So that's the qualified audience. They're the ones who are inspiring the Leela to take place. Krishna performs all his Leelas for the sake of his devotees. Right? And so the devotees are the audience. So to experience rasa, we're experiencing rasa by observing, by being participant observers. You have you're also participating, but you're also observing, right? It's not that you're the star. You're not the star of this one. You're a stagehand or something like that. You're participating in the play, but basically you get to watch the play from close. It's like if we were using football analogies last time, so I'll use another football analogy. Let's say you're the little boy who brings water to the players, right?
Right.
But the World Cup is going on, and you have in your team, you have Pele, and you have all the other great Maradona, and they're all there, and you get to bring them water, right? So you're a participant. You're also playing a little role, not very important role. But the main thing is that you get to see right there, you're right present there when the great event is taking place. Yeah. So it's something like that. That's about the same way that the gopis or the sakhis, that they are absorbed in the Leela. But they're participating, they're minor participants. The real participants are the star of the show, right? The star of the show, stars of the show are Radha and Krishna. And their Leela is real, right? It's really going on. It's like it's going on in real time.
Yes.
But Radha, they're really living the Leela. Anyway, you want to see this verse? Let's look at this verse. Okay.
Yes.
So the point is that these are uddipanas. So the main uddipanas of all the uddipanas, the main uddipanas are Radha and Krishna's qualities. Right? They have quality. What kind of qualities? They have physical qualities, their beauty. They have mental qualities. They have verbal qualities, the way they speak, and all their mannerisms. So there are so many different things that are related to Radha and Krishna that can cause one to get to suddenly feel some love for Krishna. So the main one, of course, is his beauty, right? The physical beauty, and this is also physical for the physical beauty, Radha's physical beauty also. And so when Krishna's physical beauty is there, it acts on Radha. So Radha, the Uddipana is there. Radha is feeling the Uddipana. And the same way when Radha's beauty is there, then Krishna is feeling Uddipana. His love for her is increasing. And so their love is constantly increasing. It says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that Krishna's beauty enhances because of Radharani's love. And so and her love also increases her beauty. So in this way, Krishna's love is increasing because he sees her beauty, and she sees his beauty increasing because of his love for her. And her love increases, and so there's like a competition that's going on, and it has no limit because it can go on to infinity.
Mm-hmm.
So this one here is the example of Tat Priyanam Madhuryam. Right? So it's the Tat Priyanam. So Priyanam here means Radha. So that's the example is given of Radha. Krishna's devotees, Tat Priyanam. In this case, the gopis. And their madhurya, their the sweetness of their beauty. So the verse was the verse is interesting because it's giving a metaphor. I'll read the verse, okay?
Yes.
Vadyam kinkini maharati upachayam gyatva nitambo guni. Vadyam kinkini maharati upachayam gyatva nitambo guni. Swasya dhvangsang aveti vashti balibhir yogam rasan madhyamam. Vakshak sadhu faladhvayam vichinute rajopahara kshamam. Radhayas tanurajam anchati nave shoni pato yovane. So as often is the case, so there's Sanskrit verses, they have a tendency to follow a certain pattern. So in this particular case, you have 3 lines. Each one of them is giving something different, but you don't really know. You can't really know what he's getting at until you hit the last line, right? So you can maybe guess, but normally it's the last line that gives you the clue that informs you about what the meaning of the other verse, the other lines was. So the last line says, Radhayas tanurajam anchati nave shoni pato yovane. So shoni pato means king, and anchati means arriving, and nave means new. So the new king has arrived. Where has he arrived? Radhayas tanurajam. Radha's body, Radharani's body is being compared to a kingdom. And Yovane, so now the king's name, what is the king's name? The king's name is Yovanam. The Yovanam means youth, right? So it means the adolescent beauty, it's coming of age, that she was just, she's reached puberty now. And so all the signs of youth have come to her. So now this is a very famous kind of thing that goes on. You have especially the one who's really famous for this is the poet Vidyapati. You've heard that name, Vidyapati? So when Mahaprabhu was enjoying poetry with Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Rai, Vidyapati was one of the people that he used to listen to. So we don't have many examples of Vidyapati in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, just 1 or 2 lines. And there are collections of poetry by Vidyapati, but there's so many by Vidyapati. It's like Vidyapati became a name that people would just use, like Vyasa. Right? You say Vidyapati if some poem is written, and then you say, "Oh, who wrote this poem?" Well, Vidyapati, right? It was like, or Chandidas was the other one. So Chandidas, there's so many things. Nobody knows which Chandidas is which Chandidas. It's the same thing with Vidyapati. There are collections. There are collections from Mithila. There's the collections from Bengal, and there's Vidyapati's poetry was known all through the northeast of India, but the collections are completely different. You have a collection in Mithila and a collection in Bengal, and there may be 300, 400 songs, and only 5 or 6 of them are common to both. And then you find other collections also. Other people say this is belonging to Vidyapati, this is Vidyapati, and there's no way to really know whether he actually wrote them or not. But the ones that we do have, the ones that were popular in Bengal, right? The ones that were popular in Bengal, this is a big theme. It's called Vayak Sandhi, and it's the idea of Radharani coming of age. Right? That she was just a little girl before, but now suddenly she's become interesting from the point of view of amorous love. Right? And she's also, so there are different things that are pointed out. For instance, the first signs, right, that a girl is noticing a boy in that way, right? That's something that's called bhava. And it's a bhava and hava and inhala. These things are signs, as she grows older and as her body matures, she becomes more interested in Krishna
Mhm.
in that way, right? In an erotic way.
Mhm.
Because the thing about this is an interesting point. Because at the beginning of the 14th chapter of Ujjvala Nilamani, the question is, how does it start, right? So how does it all start? Where do the gopis get their love for Krishna? Well, the gopis love Krishna from the time they're born, right? The love for Krishna is innate in the gopis.
Mhm.
But while they're still young, they love Krishna, in a general way. This is all explained in the 5th chapter of the second part of the Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu, where he starts talking about Sthayi Bhava. Because this is Sthayi Bhava. So Sthayi Bhava, Rupa Goswami talks about 3 kinds of Sthayi Bhava that are that we can call them pre-Sthayi Bhava. Because the gopi, right, she's just a little girl, so she sees Krishna, and she looks at Krishna and she loves Krishna, but she's not really old enough yet to be able to really appreciate Krishna in that way, nor be an attraction to Krishna in that way. So the coming of age is an important moment when Krishna is going to see her and suddenly be attracted. So that's what's happening in this verse, that Radharani is coming of age and somebody is noticing it and telling Krishna about it. Right? So it's a duty. So it's a situation is a duty. So some people say, one of the commentators say Subal. It's Subal. So Subal has noticed Radharani, and he's coming and telling Krishna, hey, listen, what's going on here? This girl is beginning to look pretty good. Okay. But now he's doing it. But the thing is that they're doing it. So now this is a theme that has been hackneyed, right? There's a theme that's been worked over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Right? So the whole thing we were talking about this last time about rasa, that rasa requires some surprise has to be there. There has to be some astonishment. If you're not surprised, if it's just the same old, well, then it's not going to, the idea is that poetry and film, you can have almost the same film, let's say, but if the actors are not good and if the script is not good, well, then it's the same. The story might be the same, but it doesn't work. Right?
Yes.
It doesn't attract the audience.
Yes.
So in this particular case, the Radha and Krishna, this is for the enjoyment of the Sakhis. Subala is coming and telling Krishna the way that Radharani is developing.
Mm.
Okay, so now he's using, but the poets, now from the poetic point of view, they have to make this interesting.
Yeah.
So the way he's making it interesting is by making it a metaphor, right? So he's got a metaphor here. And what's the metaphor? Well, Radharani's body is like the kingdom. And now the kingdom has been conquered by an invading king. And this invading king's name is puberty. Right? And so now this invading king is coming. So now when the invading king comes, what happens? The citizens of the country, they're going to react differently. Some of the people will be favorable and some people will be unfavorable, right? Yeah. Some people will be benefited if a new king comes in. And some of the people, like let's say, for instance, if the king is a Muslim and the citizens and there are Muslim people in the kingdom, Muslim people are very happy that a Muslim king has come.
Yes.
But the Hindus will not be so happy, right? So whenever there's some kind of a change of rulership, some people are benefited and some people are not benefited. Mm-hmm. So in this particular case, the Radharani's body, there are certain parts of Radharani's body that are benefiting from the coming of puberty, and other parts are not being benefited. So those are the 3 examples that are given. So the reaction. So the first one is that the nitamba, this word,
Mm-hmm.
is nitamba. Nitamba means the buttocks or the hips.
Yes.
Right. So usually when a girl hits 12, 13 years old, her hips start to get wider, and her waist gets thinner, and her breasts get bigger. Right. These are the three main changes. So these are the three things that are being talked about here. So the first one, nitamba, means the hips. The madhyamam, I don't think this hyphen belongs here. Madhyamam means the waist. So the waist is getting thinner.
Yeah.
And then the breasts, vakshaha.
Area, something like this. Yeah.
What?
Will be translate like literally will be something like in the middle area, in the middle.
Madhyamam, yeah, madhyamam means the middle, right? The waist.
Yes.
And then vakshaha means the chest. And the sadhu phaladvayam, phala is a fruit, and there's two fruits. Two nice fruits are there, right? And these fruits, rajopahara kshamam, that they are suitable for offering to the king. Right. So I mean, I didn't the whole thing. So vadyam kinkinima haratyupachayam gyatva nitamvo guni. So upachayam gyatva. So he knows the buttocks or the hips, usually the buttocks, right? That they know gyatva upachayam, that they're going to get increased. Right, that they're going to benefit from the coming of the king. So just like the merchants, right? The merchants, now there's a good new king here, so our trade routes are opened up again, and we'll be doing business, we'll be doing commerce. So the upachayam, they're going to prosper, right? So the nitamba is going to prosper. So knowing that, what do? They play the fanfare. You have fanfare when the king, usually nowadays we play trumpets, right? But let's say with the president, the king is coming on stage, he's going to give a speech where you got to do God save the gracious king. You have to sing a song. In the United States, they sing, what is it? They call it, what is it? They have a special song that they have to play when the president comes to speak. When the president comes on stage, there's a certain song that has to be played.
Kind of anthem.
They have to play this song. It's not the national anthem, no.
Oh.
It's called the American. I forgot what it's. I don't know. Anyhow, it's a special song just for the president.
Yeah.
At any rate, you have to play that. So anyhow, everybody's playing trumpets and beating on drums. The king has come. So this is being done by the people who are benefiting. Right, they're happy that the king has come.
Yes.
But the madhyamam, the waist, is not so happy because rasan, getting thinner. Right. So swasya dvangsam avetya. So knowing that her destruction is arriving, the reducing waist brings, right, gifts. So in the gifts that are being spoken of here, the word bali. So bali has two meanings, right? Bali means a gift, right? So bali, when you're like Bali, the king Bali who gave to Vamana, same meaning, but like if you have a sacrifice, the things that you put into the fire, those are called bali.
Uh-huh.
And quite often, like if you're killing usually a goat, right, or a sheep or something for offering in a sacrifice, that's called bali. It's called pashu bali. You have pashu bali. Right? Pashu means animal, so you have pashu bali that you got.
Not jhana or has a slightly different meaning.
Excuse me?
It will be like a jhana.
Oh yeah, in a jagya, in a sacrifice, the thing that you offer into the fire, that's called a bali. So any kind of the thing that you're offering to the deity. So it's the offerings, right? So it says here. So it says here that they're trying to appease, like the waist is trying to appease the king, because knowing that they're going to be, like let's say for instance, if you're the people who are going to be bent, and if there's going to be trouble with a new king. You're going to come and you're going to try to at least, make him favorably disposed so that he'll be on your side. So
Mm.
that's what they're saying here about the Madhyama. So the waist knows that but the Bali has a dual meaning. So the Bali means gift. So that's the external meaning, right? The meaning of the metaphor. But the double meaning is that in her body, when the waist gets thinner, underneath the navel, there are 3 lines that go between in the waist below the navel.
Yes.
So those 3 lines are called Bali. Actually, Bali is a word that means wrinkle. The 3 wrinkles, there's 3 wrinkles. So there's often talk about these 3 wrinkles. The 3 wrinkles on Radharani's waist.
Yes.
Right? So the pun is there that the gift that she's giving are the 3 lines, the 3 wrinkles on the waist. And then the last one, of course, is that so the subject here, I'm not quite sure who's the subject supposed to be. The chest is the third person, right? So there's the subject. So the subject of the first line was the buttocks. The second one was the waist. Now the third one is the chest. So the chest, what does the chest do? It collects 2 beautiful fruits that are also beneficial for the king. So this is also beneficial, giving presents to the king. So everybody has to do something to the king is coming. Everybody in the kingdom has to recognize the king and respond in some way. So this is the idea of this is the general idea of the verse. So as a personification, you're attributing qualities to the different parts of the body, and they are all welcoming. They're all welcoming the newly arrived king of youth, which has taken over the kingdom of Radharani's body.
Jai. So
that's
very sweet
This
verse.
is a poetic, pardon?
Yes, it's very sweet.
Well, this is the way. So now you're going to see when you start getting into Sanskrit, you'll see other people trying to do something different. But the basic idea of this, a king, the king of youth taking over the body, this particular trope or this particular metaphor has been used in many different ways by different poets.
Right, because also
So just I have to think of something new and original to say each time.
yeah, it can refer also to Krishna.
Well, this is Subal speaking to Krishna. So Krishna, he wants to tell. So he's bringing, so what is he saying? Saying, look at Radharani's buttocks are getting nicely shaped. Her waist is getting nicely thin. Her breasts are very beautiful.
Yeah.
This is something's she's getting to be. You're going to enjoy looking at this Radharani. So check her out.
Yeah, no, so sweet, so sweet. One question here. You spoke about this word udipana.
Yeah.
In the conception of Rupa Goswami Pad, what will be the udipana for prem?
Well, that's the whole thing. You can't, everything is, you have to take everything as a whole. So so this is supposed to be an udipana. So this verse is giving, all right. In the activity itself, in the lila itself, there are udipanas going on, right? So Subala is, he's trying to increase, to inflame Krishna's attraction for Radha. So that's the basic thing. So Subala, he's a Priya Narmasaka.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to be doing something to try to, Krishna will get more pleasure. And so Subala is thinking, well, Krishna will get more pleasure if he has lila with Radharani. So he's trying to entice him. So he's acting like a duta. So a duta is a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
So the purport, or a go-between, sometimes we use that word in English, a go-between, someone who's a messenger between the boy and the girl, right? The boy and the girl, they can't see each other, but they have, in those days, they didn't have WhatsApp.
Yes.
So they had to, of course, nowadays they have WhatsApp. So, the courtship has taken on a new face in India. I was a few years ago, I was invited to speak at at the yoga, the university. There's a central school of yoga in Delhi. Forget the name of it, but it's run by the government, right, to promote yoga. And so it's like the cutting edge of yoga in Delhi. And they had all kinds of things. But one of the things that they did was they had some other acts, and one student came on doing comedy, and so his shtick was he was holding a cell phone and boys and girls on the cell phone, making fun of boys and girls, Indian boys and girls on the cell phone. And at any rate, in those days they didn't have, so you have to have a go-between. So like Purnamasi often acts as the go-between. Lalita and Vishakhi, all the Sakhis act as a go-between. It's one of their jobs.
Yes.
Right? And amongst the cowherd boys, or amongst the Krishna's friends, Madhu Mangala and Subal are the main ones.
Yes.
They're the ones who are taking messages back and forth, and they kind of have the right to participate in Radha and Krishna's like they're in their squabbles. Some Madhu Mangal and Subal would take Krishna's side, and they'll criticize the gopis, criticize the fight with Lalita. What? Sorry?
In the Madhurya Lila, even the bumblebees are taking part of it.
Yeah, so yes, exactly. They all participate in a role. So the bumblebees, they can be also Uddipana.
Yes.
Right? The bumblebees, how can a bumblebee be an Uddipana? Well, the bumblebee can, because you have Uddipanas for not just for the main rasa, but you have Uddipana for Vyabhicharis. Right? So Vyabhicharis were the secondary emotions. So secondary emotions come up. So like a bee, for instance, might come and start coming, being attracted to Radharani's flower garland, but she gets afraid when she sees the bee. So the bee is inspiring fear, right? So it's an Uddipan for fear. But so fear is coming in as a Vyabhichari in the midst of the staya of Madhura Rasa. So Krishna is there, and when he sees Radharani afraid, that inspires his heroic mood, and he comes to protect her from the bee. Yes. And when Radharani sees that, then increases her love for Krishna because he's protecting her. You see how it works?
Yes.
So this is the idea here. But in this particular case, what's happening is that the description Subala is given is specifically designed to make Krishna interested in Radharani, right?
So to get in the context of this verse is being heard by Krishna.
Yes. Well, I mean, the thing I put it. Let's say I make some comment here. Yeah. I don't know if can I scroll this down. If I scroll this down, what you see the scroll down?
Yes.
I have it here. Each of the three commentaries. You can see this here.
Yes.
Yeah, so each of the three commentaries give their own description of the speaker and context of the verse. Jiva Goswami says it is some go-between, right? So a duty, speaking to Krishna. Yeah, so he dutya, kasyascha dutya Sri Krishnam pratibachanam. So he just says that this is some duty. A duty means a messenger, a girl messenger, right? She's speaking to Krishna. Now Vishwanath Chakravarti says it is Subal speaking to Krishna. And Vishnu Das says it's Vrinda Devi, and probably speaking to Purnamasi. So usually when we have Vrinda Devi, she's usually speaking to Purnamasi. Right? Subal, so Vishwanath Chakravarti says it's Subal. So nowadays in our Sampradaya, we nearly always take Vishwanath over Jiva Goswami. I don't know if that's legitimate, but Jiva Goswami's information here is not so full. He just says one little thing, whereas Vishwanath makes a much bigger introduction with Subal speaking. And Vishnu does when he says it's Vrinda Devi speaking to Purnamasi, that's kind of not a very let's say deep interpretation, I would say. Vrinda Devi and Purnamasi, like in Gopal Champu, Vrinda Devi and Purnamasi have many conversations. And that's when Jiva Goswami wants to talk about Tattva, about Leela Tattva, then it's Vrinda Devi speaking to Purnamasi, because both of them are like are like Lila Shakti, right?
Yes.
So Vrinda Devi is Lila Shakti. And so Purnamasi is Yoga Maya.
Yes.
So you have Yoga Maya speaking to Lila Shakti, and they're discussing what's happening in Krishna Lila, right? Why is there Parakiya? Why is there Swakiya? All these different things. If you just take the conversations of Vrinda Devi with Purnamasi in the Gopala Champu, you get all the philosophy of the Gopala Champu. So that's the thing. So here, this is one. So but he says more. But he says more. Shri Radhayaha Pratama Vayasodvinna Tadavayava Ramaniyatam Avakalaya Shri Vrinda Rupakalankarena Varnayati. So they're saying that Vrinda Devi is describing Radharani's beauty as her first age, her childhood is being broken through, and all her bodily limbs are becoming beautified by the coming of adolescence. And so when Vrinda Devi sees that, she describes it all by means of a metaphor. That's what it says.
Interesting. What more we have there in the text? I am interested in this file.
Well, so I was writing it up. I wanted to finish it, but I decided to do this. It's a bit of a distraction. But I mean, so you had the right. Well, I mean, I pretty much described everything to you already by giving you the explanation. So but I wanted to see whether there's anything else new to say here. So I was just going through the three commentaries. I often do this kind of thing. I try to compare the different commentaries and see what each person's saying about each thing, and to see, whether there's any, what the differences of opinion are. Because quite often a commentator, like for instance, Sanatana Goswami for the Bhagavatam, he might give 10 different interpretations of a particular passage, of a particular word. Sanatana Goswami just loves to have many different things. This is why I think in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Lila, the last chapter of the Madhya Lila is the description of the Atma Rama verse. Right? Remember this? Yes. Atma Ramas Chamunayo Nigrantha Apyarukrame. So this verse, Kurvanti Haitu Kim Bhaktim, that Itam Bhuta Guna Hari. Right? So this famous verse is famous because why? Why is it famous? Because at least twice in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says how many different meanings that Mahaprabhu was able to get out of this verse, right? So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wants to hear them, and Prakashananda Saraswati wants to hear all these different meanings. So the 24th chapter of the Madhya Lila is Prakashananda hearing from Chaitanya all the different meanings of the Atma Rama verse. So in this way you can see that to find many meanings, this was considered to be something, it shows the depth and the beauty and the extent of depth that a certain verse might have. So Sanatana Goswami is very good at that. So I think that's why Chaitanya is speaking to Sanatana Goswami and giving him all the different meanings of the Atma Rama verse. But because Sanatana Goswami is like that. Sanatana Goswami makes 20 explanations of the first verse of Rasa Lila, for instance. So Jiva Goswami is writing after Sanatana Goswami, and he comes and he writes his Vaishnav Toshni. Yeah, Sanatana Goswami has his Vaishnav Toshni, and then later on people call that the Brihad Vaishnav Toshni, and they call Jiva Goswami Lagu Vaishnava Toshni. So Brihad means big and Lagu means light. But really the Lagu Vaishnav Toshni is longer than the Brihad Vaishnav Toshni. But often in Brihad Vaishnav Toshni he gives many meanings. He'll give 20 meanings of one passage, and then what Jiva Goswami will do is he'll take 2 or 3. he'll say which ones are the best ones and which ones he doesn't have the patience for 20 meanings. 2 or 3 meanings is good. So that's
question arises from here that while I am checking your text and listening to your explanations, There is one. Well, there are two uh, sides on this topic. I would like to hear your perspective in terms of your own experience, your own understanding, and also by Shastra. What Rupa Goswami said in terms of the manifestation of Prem in the heart of the sadhaka. And now I am speaking about common mortal people, not Mahabharata's, not like
Okay.
Goswami.
Well, that's a very interesting. Okay, so that's a super interesting question, because this is actually, you got to get me back on point, because this is what I was talking about, that they had in the Nitya Lila. So the 14th chapter of Ujjvala Nilamani begins by describing the different ways in the Lila that the gopis' love for Krishna would become manifest.
Mm.
So, of course, hearing about Krishna, seeing Krishna, and all these different things, these are all uddipanas, for their love. But in the end of that section, Rupa Goswami says, "Well, the gopis are already in love with Krishna from before they're even born." Right? So it's just a question of it's. So he calls that swarupa or nisarga.
Mm.
He says that it's just a natural development of their being in the lila. But at the same time, all these other things that caused the gopis' love to develop for Krishna, all of those things are also happening to the sadhaka, because the basic idea is the same, right? You're the audience. So it's happened just in the same way that you're in the audience, and so in the audience you like this. Let's say, for instance, you're a musician. You're not a musician yet, but you hear some music, and you think, yes, I would like to play this kind of music. I would also like to be able to sing this song, and so on. So when you hear about Radha and Krishna's lila, then attraction takes place, right? That's what it is. Shrut, in the chapter in Bhakti-rasamtra-sindhu on Raganuga Bhakti, that's what it specifically says, that hearing about the love, the pastimes, tat Leelavadi madhurye shrute dhiryadapekshate natra shastram na yukting cha lobotpatti lakshanam. Okay, remember that one? The loba, the idea of loba developing. So how does the loba develop? Tat liladi madhurye shrute dhiryadapekshate natra shastram na yuktim cha tadra lobotpatti lakshanam. So if you hear about it, and then you have a desire, and from hearing about it, a desire for that lila arises in you, then that's called loba. And then loba is the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. But the thing is that where do you draw the line? Because there's something like that happens to a Vaidhi Bhakta also, right? A Vaidhi Bhakta is going to hear about Krishna, and hearing about Krishna is going to be attracted and want to engage in bhakti, just like the verse we were saying, Atma Ramascha Munayo. That when even an Atma Rama, when he hears about Krishna's qualities, then he becomes attracted, because that's the nature of Krishna's qualities. But the thing is that you have the Aishwarya Madhurya divide. So Vaidhi Bhakta is one who is more attracted by the Aishwarya of Krishna, and who reacts to Krishna in Shanta and Dasya rasas.
Yes.
Whereas the Raganuga Bhakta will be more attracted by the Madhurya, by Krishna's Leela pastimes with the others.
Yes.
And so what happens in the middle, when you're in the middle, because most of us start out as Vaidhi Bhaktas, but then when we hear about Krishna's Madhurya, and Tat Leela di Madhurya Srute, then when you hear about the Madhurya, and you're attracted by the Madhurya, and you want to attain the Madhurya, that's when Lobha arises, and that's the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. So there's a difference between Raganuga and Vaidhi Bhakti.
Yes. And yes, Vidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, but speaking specifically about Prem. There is one line that I would like to get into this topic a little bit, and to extract more information about this topic. That some had the idea, or have the idea that prem can be only given by the ones who have prem, say Sadguru or a bona fide spiritual master who has prem. He can give to the sadhaka, to the practitioner, to the disciple. Other had the idea that through your bhajan, you can you can develop prem, because prem is basically in a kind of a seed in the heart of the soul, to say. So, which
Yeah,
do
well,
you think?
there has to be, okay, so these both people are right, and both are partially missing something. Right? If, for instance, the you every in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, see that the intention is that every jiva should have prema. That the God's intention is that everybody should be liberated and have love for Him. That would be the best outcome. Right? That's Krishna's intended outcome. So since that's Krishna's intention is to give you prema sooner or later, right? It's already a part of what you have. You're already destined for prema.
Yes.
So you can, and in order to get prema, you have to believe that you're destined to have prema. You have to believe that it's what you get. So now, how do you get prema? Well, I mean, for instance, now let's say, have you gotten prema yet? This is a question. Have you gotten prema yet? If you got prema, where did you get it from? Right? How is it that you're interested in prema? Is being interested in prema the same thing as having prema? Well, that's a good question. If you're determined to attain something, is it the same as attaining it or not? If you're determined to attain something, then that more or less indicates that sooner or later you're going to attain it, as long as you don't give up, right? As long as you keep trying for it.
Absolutely.
So really, it's when they say that Brahmite kono bhagyavan jiv guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata bij. So it's the idea is that you get the bij, you get the seed, and then from the seed you get the prema just grows naturally. So what is the seed? The seed here is sthayi bhav. Right? The seed is going to be some kind of sthayi bhav. So the seed means that you become attracted to Krishna. That your natural tendencies as a human being for love and for a relationship, those are directed towards Krishna, and they are slowly taking particular form. But you can't. Everything takes time. You put the seed in the ground. You have to pour water, and you have to take care of it, and you have to give some fertilizer, and so on, in order for it to grow. And you still have to wait. You still have to wait a few months. You still have to wait 6 months or many years before you get mangoes. So the mangoes are the fruits, right? The mangoes are the fruit of the prema fruit, like in the 11th chapter of the Adi Lila. Talking about the gardener of the garden. He's planted the trees of love, and these trees of love are giving fruit like mangoes. And everybody, Chaitanya is eating as many as he can and distributing as many as he can. Help me to distribute these fruits of love.
Yes.
So how do you distribute the fruits of love? Well, what you do, like Chaitanya, you taste them yourself, and you say, here, taste some of this. This is good, right? So that's what the devotees are doing. Unless somebody gives you a taste, where are you going to find out about it? You have to get the taste from somewhere. So that's the bij. The bij of the bhakti lata is the taste.
Yes.
Right? That you get a taste. You get a taste of the rasa. So if you get a taste of the rasa, is that different from prema? You have to start somewhere.
Yes.
So you have to know that you get a taste, and so you realize, yes, that at the end of this, if I climb to the top of this bhakti lata, I'll come to Vaikuntha and I'll come to Krishna's lotus feet, and there I'll get the complete taste, the raso vaisaha, and then this little taste that I'm getting now is just a preview. It's just like a free sample.
Yes.
Free sample. So you get a free sample, and then this free sample gives you faith. You think, oh yeah, there's something in this. There's something about this that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, even if intellectually it makes no sense at all. It does something to your heart, makes you something. There's something softening of the heart, some emotional feeling, some recognition is there that yes, this is what I was meant for, that this is somehow or another, this is the direction that that my soul wants to turn towards.
Yes. Yes. Is another question talking about this? In your opinion, and what Shastra said about love and prem are parallel or are two different things?
Yeah. So now, I don't know. I mean, I'm quoting something that I only believe, and I haven't seen anybody else say this. Although sometimes I see some things that make me think that maybe that's the way that the acharyas were also thinking, but they didn't go into it in as much detail, because nowadays, of course, Western psychology especially has come a long way, especially in the last couple of 100 years, in thinking about human psychology. And this particular, the approach that the Goswamis had is also psychological. So yes, they're very interested in love, but and so definitions of love are given, and these definitions of love come out of human experience. You can't say, that Radha and Krishna, whatever you see of Radha and Krishna, it's all coming out of human experience. So if it didn't come from human experience, we wouldn't be able to understand it, right? It wouldn't have any effect on us. Mm-hmm. This is why, like for instance, some of the Rasa Shastra people, like Rupa Kaviraj, not Rupa Kaviraj, like Vishwanath Kaviraj, right, who wrote Sahitya Darpana. He's saying things like you have rasa, and then you have rasa abhas, and you have rasa virod. So rasa abhas. So he says that, for instance, if you see like a cartoon with two animals in love, like two dogs or two cats, and so they do or two elephants or two birds or whatever. You sometimes see cartoon where the character. So you see those, but the question there is that rasa? You can say, okay, the two birds are talking like human beings and are being like in love, and so you feel, because they're doing all the appropriate things, you might feel some identification with that. But how can you really identify with a bird or with a cat or with a dog? The only way you could do it is if they attribute, anthropomorphically, they attribute human qualities to those animals. Right. Then you can somehow relate to it. So the point I'm making is that the point that Radha and Krishna Leela, if it's Krishna's Leela is Nara Leela, that Krishna is having human pastimes. If he was Varaha or Nrsingadev or Parasuram or all these other different avatars, they're not fully human in their pastimes, right? They haven't fully succumbed to the human experience. Krishna, when he falls in love with Radha and the gopis, then he's actually doing something that's very, very, very human. Right? It's something that we can all relate to. It's something that we can identify with.
There is another way to see the same phenomenon. That is in the as an example is the fractals. Right, the fractal has a beginning, origin, and then is manifesting thousands copies in somehow of the first original reality, the root of the fractal. Mandalas work kind of similar. They have a central point and they manifest all around a full story. But everything is coming from the origin, from the root point. So in this way, I do believe that it's not that Radha and Krishna are having human experiences. We have experiences as Radha and Krishna because they are the origin of everything. So their leelas is what we, in somehow on a material platform, we expand and we develop here. So everybody has similar experiences as we can see on Radha and Krishna, but this is not my human experience that created by myself. It's an archetypical experience because if I go to Africa, to India, to North America, or to Chile, to say, similar experiences are going on, like archetypes. So the original archetype in this way will be Radha and Krishna. So it's not that they are living human experiences, it's that we are living experiences that are human, and the original human men and women are them in that way, like in a transcendental form.
Well, that certainly fits a certain, I mean, that certainly fits a kind of universal. Well, I mean, because the Jewish Bible starts with that God created man in His own image. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so the idea that that's more the way you say that, the way we could say it. Also, we could say it that same way, that human beings are created in the image of God, rather than saying that God is created in the image of man. But the fact is that when you have a mirror and you have a reflection, then you have to recognize that there's some similarity between the two as well.
Yes.
So which is the so we'll say yes, of course. Krishna says in the Ras Lila, there says Swaprati Bimba Vibhrama, that the point that he's making there is that when they were dancing with the gopis, when he was dancing with the gopis, that they were dancing in such harmony and such unison that it was as if he was dancing with his own reflection, because their movements were so coordinated. So you sometimes see, like with ballroom dancing, or with dancing the in Argentina, they're dancing
Tango.
the tango. So the whole point about the tango is that the man and the woman are moving in such harmony that they're completely well coordinated.
Yeah.
So that was the idea, that when the example is given of Krishna seeing himself playing with the gopis like he's in his own playing with his own reflection, sometimes people think that means there's some mayavad there. But it actually just means that the gopis are so united with Krishna that they're in such harmony with him that their movements are coordinated also. Right? So that's what you're aspiring to. You're aspiring to become coordinated in your movements with Krishna.
Yes. So beautiful metaphor. And you can explain the next verse in the next episode. It will be fantastic.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Dandavat pranams. Thank you very much for your time, Jagadananda. I will link your blog for everybody who want to read more about your work.
Actually, I was thinking, because you were asking some questions there, some of these things I've talked about on my blog, so I'll have to.
For the ones who want to learn Sanskrit, Jagadananda is giving classes. You can go to jiva.org and then you can find the Sanskrit classes.
If I can say one thing about that, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, so that will start in October, so you have to join there. It doesn't cost very much, I think $100 or something like this. Okay. And so, but you get the manual, and you get daily class, and if you follow for 1 year, really, it's like one year of courses, then you should have very, very good basis, very, very good solid basis in Sanskrit. You'll be able to, and I'm giving a second course, which is commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita. So we're reading the Bhagavad Gita verses, and then we're also reading the commentary. So it's a very good course because it helps you to read, to learn reading Sanskrit prose. It's very good to learn to read the commentaries, because the commentaries, basically you can't really understand the text without the commentaries. And the commentaries are where the real philosophical differences and opinions are all explained.
Fantastic. So one question about the Sanskrit classes. What somebody must to know already in order to join classes?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the beginning of the beginner's course, what I call a beginner's course, it's really, whether we can call it beginner's course. But anyway, Introduction to Sanskrit, Gaudiya Vaishnav Sanskrit, that's what I'm really calling it. Jiva Sanskrit. You should just know the alphabet and be able to read. So you should practice, you should know your alphabet so that you can read. And then, we'll be doing so much reading that but you have to know the letters first. I'm not going to teach you ka. I'm not going to teach you the letters.
All right.
You have to know the letters, okay? I'm not going to take your hand and writing on the blackboard.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Jagadananda Das. Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai Shri Radhe.
Interesting, yeah? Radhe Shyam.